Going to do a bit more of a topical video today because PWI's top 10 of the PWI 500 should be coming out pretty soon. For those who don't know, PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, release an annual list every year of the 500 greatest male wrestlers in the world. They also do a ranking for the women and one for tag teams too. But more than the big 500 list itself, it's the anticipation of the top 10 which always generates a lot of debate, a lot of discourse in the wrestling online wrestlosphere. The way they do it requires a bit of explanation. This is not a quote-unquote smarky rankings based entirely on things like work rate and booking and storytelling, no. Nor is it entirely a kayfabe ranking either. It's kind of a blend of the two with a few different criteria in play. They kind of take work rate into account, but also kayfabe achievements like title belts and so on, and also just kind of general star quality seems to be a factor as well. It's kind of hard to predict because the importance of each of these criteria seems to fluctuate a bit from year to year. It makes predicting such a top 10 pretty foolhardy, but I'm going to try it anyway. Just a couple of caveats before we dive in. First of all, this is not my own opinion. This is not my top 10 male wrestlers in the world today. This is my prediction of PWI's top 10. And also, this is not the ranking of a calendar year. This is not the greatest wrestlers of 2025. We're only partway through the year, of course. The evaluation period for the PWI 500 tends to run from August to the following July, or the end of the following July. So we're going to be looking at, there's a car chase going on outside. We're going to be looking at a period from, I think, August the 1st, 2024, all the way through to the end of July this year. Thank you to everybody subscribed over at my Patreon who make this very YouTube channel possible, really. I am forever grateful. And the names of those in the Jackalites tier are on screen right now. Right, let's do some honourable mentions. This isn't exactly my predictions of numbers 20 to 11 in the list, and they're not in any sort of order, but there are 10 honourable mentions here, so if it shakes out this way, wow, I'm a genius perhaps. Konosuke Takeshita and Kenny Omega had very strong years, you know, Kyle Fletcher as well, again in AEW, they could well be on the list. I won't feel too silly if any of those three are in the top 10, the real top 10 when it's released, and I've left them out. I think that's an understandable oversight on my part. There's a lot of people to try and squeeze in. I'd also suggest that if this year's G1 Climax had finished within the evaluation period, because of course Konosuke Takeshita won that tournament, I think he would have made it into the top 10. But as it stands, I think he's probably like 11 or 12 maybe. David Finlay had part of his global heavyweight title reign in New Japan within the evaluation period, and even though he lost the belt, he then won the New Japan Cup back in sort of February, March sort of time, so he could certainly be on the top 10 list as well. Now a couple that might get on there more by virtue of their kayfabe achievements and general star quality and yeet aura. Jey Uso is one, of course, incredibly popular, and he won his first singles world title at WrestleMania, of course. Quite a short title reign, though, which could work against him. Swerve Strickland could be in there just for being hugely popular and charismatic and a great wrestler, etc., despite losing the AEW world title to Bryan Danielson right at the start of the evaluation period. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. He continued to just be a global internet sensation and also won the TNA title, but again, as we speak, he is no longer the champion. The man who is now TNA champion, Trick Williams, a WWE superstar, strangely, could maybe find himself on there too, perhaps an outside bet, but we do have to pay attention to those big world titles in wrestling in most of the major promotions, really, not just concentrated within WWE and AEW. Speaking of the big titles, the name that I would most expect to perhaps trip me up in my predictions of the top 10 list would be El Hijo del Vikingo. He is the symbol, kind of, right now, of WWE's acquisition of the Mexican promotion AAA. He's also the AAA Mega Champion as we speak. Not that impressive in terms of actual booking and storytelling, really. There was kind of a messy feud with Alberto El Patron, which muddied the waters for me. He is, of course, a ludicrous athlete, incredible work rate, high-flying action, and all that sort of stuff. I just wouldn't put him in my top 10 list. However, the current climate in wrestling, there seems to be quite a focus at the minute on lucha libre, on Mexican wrestling, and I don't know if PWI will be able to resist putting him in their top 10. So I'll say he might be 11 or 12, and Takeshita might be 11 or 12. And now let's crack on with the top 10. My prediction for number 10 is a certain man I know very, very well, all too well really, but I never talk about it. It's my shoot best friend in all the world, Will Ospreay. Just within the start of the evaluation period, he of course won the international or the American championship from MJF inside Wembley Stadium. It's a very strong start from Bill, but at the same time, he didn't then go on to have the greatest year in terms of title success, losing that belt due to the nefarious ways of Don Callis, of course. He did well in tournaments, though, which could help him in the PWI evaluation criteria. He got to the final of the Continental Classic, but lost to Kazuchika Okada. He also got to the final of the Men's Own Heart tournament, but lost to Hangman Adam Page in a result that shocked many, including myself. But now that we've seen Hangman's win over Jon Moxley in Texas, kind of makes a lot of sense in hindsight. Ospreay also got a big win over the Bucks in a big featured tag team match at All In Texas alongside Swerve Strickland, so I think Will could maybe sneak into the top 10. Number 9, the current Ring of Honor World Champion Bandido, who won the belt back, defeating Chris Jericho in kind of a weird match at AEW Dynasty where he lost, but then his family were at ringside and told the ref that Jericho had cheated, and the ref believed them. He had a long, epic title defense on pay-per-view against Konosuke Takeshita and also defended the belt against the likes of CMLL's Mascara Dorada. There was also the very, very recent capture of the AEW tag team titles alongside his quite recent tag team partner Brody King, but that fell just outside of the evaluation period. Had that happened within the time frame, I think Bandido would be an absolute certainty for the top 10. On the other hand, I think that result will still help him in the minds of the judges or whoever decides this ranking, because I think even though it fell outside of the evaluation period, it will remind them that Bandido exists. You know, they'll see that he's won the AEW Tag Team title and they'll think, oh yeah, Bandido, the Ring of Honor World Champion, stick him in the top 10. That's what I'm thinking anyway. I'm doing a bit of psychology here, aren't I? We'll see how it pans out. Number 8, Hangman Adam Page. Basically, this pick is built just upon what an insane month or so Hangman had. He, of course, won a dramatic, emotional Owen Hart tournament and went on to defeat Jon Moxley and currently, as we speak, is the reigning AEW World Champion. I think the sheer magnitude of that title change will serve Page well here. You could definitely and realistically argue that a lot of other champions in different promotions stuck around the main title pictures for longer, had more sustained success throughout 2024/5 than Hangman Page, but I don't know if that'll matter too much. I think he'll fall somewhere between 10 and 6. If he's in the top 5, I'll probably be quite shocked. If he's in the top 3 or so, I'll definitely be very shocked. After all, despite it being such a massive title win, it only happened right at the end of the evaluation period and was definitely the high point of a year where Hangman found himself quite deliberately in terms of the storytelling, but found himself in the wilderness quite a lot. Number 7, Kazuchika Okada. Now, in my original draft of the script for this video, I had Okada at number 8 and Hangman at number 7, but I've swapped them around last minute. I guess it all just depends on how much the PWI ranking team value the other titles in AEW, not just the world title. Okada began the evaluation period already as this very strong continental champion in AEW, beating the likes of Kyle Fletcher, Sammy Guevara, before taking the title into its own tournament, the Continental Classic, and retaining it, defeating Will Ospreay in the final and holding on to that gold. Then I think Okada's time within the evaluation period got even stronger, defeating the likes of Speedball Mike Bailey and Brody King to retain the title, before the biggest win of all, beating Kenny Omega at All In Texas to unify those belts. Stand up straight. Number 6, I reckon Hiroki Goto absolutely storms into the top 10 out of nowhere after many, many years floating around in upper mid-card New Japan purgatory, occasionally getting a title shot and inevitably choking. In 2025 though, things actually changed as Goto finally did it for the first time ever, becoming IWGP World Heavyweight Champion with a dramatic and emotional victory over Zack Sabre Jr. I think for the longest time, New Japan fans thought Goto was just one of those nearly men, wrestlers who were definitely good enough to become the big champion alongside the likes of Tomohiro Ishii, Katsuyori Shibata, but unfortunately for those kind of wrestlers, they just happened to exist at the same time as, you know, the likes of Okada, Tanahashi, Omega, Tetsuya Naito, Kota Ibushi, and so on and so on and so on. But instead, Goto broke free of that category and actually did it in dramatic, crowd-popping fashion as well. And yes, he eventually lost the title back to Zack Sabre Jr., but he had a few good defenses in there as well against the likes of David Finlay, Shingo Takagi, and the man himself on his retirement tour, Hiroshi Tanahashi. I think that's pretty good for around number 6. On we go to number 5. And I think that will be Cody Rhodes. Yeah, WWE time now, and this is where things start to get maybe a little bit weird. Cody topped last year's PWI 500 entirely because finally he, say it with me, finished the story defeating Roman Reigns for the WWE title at WrestleMania 41. 40. WrestleMania 40, Jack. It was a monstrous title win last year, and I think Cody was always going to struggle to hold on to this number 1 spot because you can't really hit that peak again, can you? But I think the work he did as WWE champion after that, within the evaluation period, and the fact that he was holding the single most famous title in the entire wrestling world, will probably see him cling on to the top 5 here, maybe. He won feuds to defend the belt against the likes of Solo Sikoa and Kevin Owens, but of course the thing working against him, which makes him quite an unpredictable pick in this top 10, is that Cody Rhodes suffered perhaps the biggest loss of a wrestling match out of any wrestler in the world within the evaluation period. I'm talking, of course, about how he went out with a whimper against John Cena in the main event of Mania 41, and yes, he has since won the title back, but that fell just outside of the evaluation period. I think that could hurt him quite a lot. We'll see. Factors working in Cody's favour, however, he remained one of the biggest stars in wrestling. He won the King of the Ring tournament as well, defeating the likes of Jey Uso and Randy Orton along the way. Oh, and he won the, what was it? The Saudi Arabia, what was the championship called? The Crown Jewel Championship, of course. How could I forget? He beat Gunther in Saudi Arabia to win the Crown Jewel Championship. God, he might be number 1 again. No, I'm kidding. Speaking of Gunther, he is my number 4, one of the big 2 dethroned champions in WWE last year. But I think the fact that Gunther won his back after not too long without the belt kind of nudges him ahead of Cody, at least for me. And I think PWI will agree with me there, hopefully, so I look really clever if so. I mean, Gunther lost the belt to Jey Uso, but he's also had a few big wins over Jey Uso and won the title back in one of them, and crucially, whereas Cody won the belt back after the evaluation period had ended, Gunther won his World Heavyweight Championship back within that period. He also lost it too late for that to be considered as well. So within that evaluation period, Gunther is still World Heavyweight Champion. CM Punk never beat him at SummerSlam because SummerSlam didn't exist yet. Aside from the Jey Uso blip, Gunther's reign was pretty dominant, perhaps not as dominant as his IC title reign the year before or in the years prior, but we saw him decimate the likes of Damian Priest, who he beat for the title of course, Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, and perhaps most impressively of all, Goldberg, along with the likes of, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Sting, Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, all those guys. Goldberg is one of the most kayfabe undefeatable wrestlers in history, so beating him must count for something for the Ring General. Top 3 time now. This is where it gets really sticky. So PWI could feasibly put any of these 3 men at number 1. I would be shocked if any other wrestler, apart from these 3 names I'm about to mention, makes it to the top of the list. But I really don't know which one it is, and I think whoever they select will tell us a lot about PWI's selection policy. And it's particularly strange because I think out of these 3 names, if 2 of the 3 end up as number 1, I don't think we're going to hear the end of it. I think it's going to cause a lot of unhappiness amongst the sort of people who care about the PWI 500. At the same time, I do think that 2 of those names, the 2 controversial ones, will still make up 2 of the top 3 for certain. So yeah, I'm really not confident about this top 3, but this is what I've come up with. Number 3, Jon Moxley. Right, so we have to understand this. If there's one thing PWI loves when deciding the top 10 of the PWI 500, it's long, dominant world title reigns. Does it matter how well those title reigns were booked or how well audiences responded to them? I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? If we put aside for a second just how sick a lot of people got of Jon Moxley's title reign as the leader of the Death Riders, it began almost at the start of the evaluation period and lasted almost all the way until the end. It dominated a big chunk of that year. It began with him defeating and seemingly retiring one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Bryan Danielson, for the title in Danielson's home state of Washington. That has to count for something. It also saw him overcome big stars like Adam Copeland, Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, a failed cash-in attempt from Christian Cage, and a whole host of other names as well. It was, as I say, a long and dominant reign, one which, if it had been booked even just slightly better, I think it would have resulted in Moxley being an absolute certainty for number one in the PWI 500 this time around. But it wasn't, so he's not. He could still be number one, but I don't think it's that certain anymore. And the weird thing is, you could argue that the exact same thing applies to my pick for number two. Number two is, of course, John Cena. Now, PWI, I think I'm taking quite a risk here. I think PWI might well just say, whatever, we don't care about the backlash, we're sticking John at number one. After all, the single biggest story in wrestling this year was John Cena turning heel, defeating Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania, and breaking the record. Then again, the second biggest story, you could say, in wrestling this year has been what an abject failure that heel turn has been, and the fact that WWE decided to end the heel run without really explaining it too much in storyline, just kind of going, all right, John's a face again, we're sorry, we're really sorry. Cena is an absolute wild card here. I think realistically we could see him land from anywhere between number 1 and number 10 in the PWI 500. It just depends how much PWI are willing to annoy people. After a lot of toing and froing from myself, I've decided to put John at number 2 and suggest that maybe PWI will want to evade a bit of the heat, put him at number 2, and then give the number 1 spot to someone else. But if that's not Cena and that's not Moxley, then who is it? I think there is a way out for PWI, a very credible number 1 who they could realistically use here to dodge a big backlash. My prediction for number 1, I'm going to hate myself if this turns out to be Cena, which it will, or Moxley, but my number 1 pick is Zack Sabre Jr. This isn't a desperation pick from me. Don't worry, I've backed it up. There's evidence here. I really think that he could be number 1. I'm so self-conscious about this prediction for some reason. First of all, we don't really know how much it matters to PWI, but the match quality's there. Zack's been on absolute fire recently, massively on form, as he has been quite a lot in his mid to late 30s. The kayfabe credentials are there as well. Not only did Zack Sabre Jr. win last year's G1 Climax within the evaluation period, the most prestigious tournament in all of wrestling, although it has lost its shine a little bit in recent years, very slightly, but he still won it. Not only all of that, but Zack also then went on to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, calling his shot early, not waiting for Wrestle Kingdom, and defeating Tetsuya Naito in, I think, October. That means that while a lot of G1 Climax tournament winners will have their next big moment at Wrestle Kingdom, winning the title at one of the biggest events in the wrestling calendar, Zack managed to kind of separate it. So he had 3 big moments. It's a bit of a triple whammy. He got the G1 Climax win, he got the title win in October, and then on January 4th, he got a big defense of the title in the main event against Shota Umino. And then the following night at Wrestle Dynasty, he casually beat Ricochet in the main event of that as well. Just a little bonus, I suppose. Yes, he lost the belt to Hiroki Goto, as mentioned, but he did win it back before the end of the evaluation period. He's had many huge moments this year. All the excuses are there in place for PWI if they want to avoid a Cena-related backlash or a Moxley-related backlash. The big question simply is, will they do it? My name's Jack the Jobber. That has been my prediction for the PWI 500 Men's Top 10. We'll see how right I am. There is every chance I could look like an absolute fool here. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon.